Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Death by Disney podcast, a podcast where I, Adam, try to review literally every movie that Disney has ever released. And today we're talking about 1956 Davy Crockett and the River Pirates. It stars Fess Parker, Buddy Ebsen, and Jeff York. I think someday I'll do a deep dive into the actors who were stars for Disney or who became stars after they left Disney. I mean, it's a long list. So Fess Parker, Jodie Foster, Kurt Russell, there's a lot of them. Okay, but about this particular movie, what did I think? I give it 5 out of 10 stars. Davy and his friends leave for New Orleans to sell some fur pelts. Here's my review. This is the second Davy Crockett movie that Walt Disney released, and if you watched the first Davy Crockett movie, you've watched this one. The plot is a little bit different, but at least the first movie had some sort of momentum. This feels like an episode that was taken from in between the events of the first movie. And as both of these movies are just television episodes that have been edited into a film, that would make sense. Because in real life, Davy Crockett died in the Alamo, so there is no way that there could be a sequel to the first movie. At the end of the first movie, there is narration that some say Davy Crockett died, some say he's still alive, but you can think what you want, so the narration kind of leaves it open. So how can you have a sequel then? Putting the strangeness of the existence of this movie aside for a moment, the movie has the same charms and flaws as the first. Which makes sense because it's exactly the same everything. Actors, writers, etc. So if you want to know what American kids were watching on their TVs in the late 1950s, you can give this a watch. It isn't worth your time otherwise. A bit of interesting trivia. There was an actor called Kenneth Tobey, who was a supporting actor in this film. And basically, his career was ruined by his hair color. So he was kind of playing the leading man, and then movies sort of switched into being in color, and everyone was like, look at that red-headed freak. I am not going to cast him as a lead man anymore. Which seems pretty harsh. Okay, generally, my review is one of the worst reviews on IMDb. So usually I like to read a negative review and a positive review, but my review won. So here is a positive review. 10 out of 10. Possibly the greatest sequel ever made. As far as unnecessary sequels go, this is probably the best. As far as any sequel goes, it's easily my favorite. Fess Parker, God bless his recently deceased soul, returns as Frontier Jesus himself, Davy Crockett. Buddy Ebsen is also back as George Russell, Davy's best friend and comic foil for local wildlife. But by far the most entertaining character is Mike Fink, played by the ever-talented Jeff York. I don't know how, but they got the perfect amount of over-the-top with his character. He's always drinking or smoking or getting into fights. His mouth is always open. Nothing he does is subtle. And his overblown expressions alone are worth checking out in this movie. King of the Wild Frontier suffered from being a bit dark and kind of awkward at times, with Davy Crockett going throughout his life and experiencing both highs and lows. In the River Pirates, there are no lows to bring you out of the glorious legend that is Davy Crockett. Even though the stories are kind of lame, this is one of the movies where you could watch the characters sit down and play cards for an hour, and you'd still be entertained. If you haven't seen the Disney Davy Crockett movies, first off, shame on you. They are a must-see for anyone who dares call themselves a Disney fan. Second, while I can't recommend the first movie to everyone, as it does have a somewhat inconsistent tone, this one I highly recommend to everyone, kids, teens, and adults alike. It's a ton of fun every time I watch it, and even today, it still oozes with Walt's magic. Yeah. What did I think about that? I'm trying to piece together my thoughts. The The best sequel ever? Well, actually, he said that, or she, that it was the best unnecessary sequel ever. So, trying to think of unnecessary sequels. I think maybe Toy Story 4 is the best unnecessary sequel, because in Toy Story 3, the story was ended. Either 4 or 5, I'm not sure what we're on now, but like, so there was one where it's completely like the original main story has ended and they're talking about some new characters, but the animation is really, really great. Um, Unnecessary sequel. I don't know, that's a good question. What do you think is the best unnecessary sequel? And as to the claim that this is better than the first one, I don't think so. I think Davy Crockett was actually a pretty real. He was a real character and an interesting character. And he fought, again, he was like anti slavery, but somehow he fought for Texas in the Alamo. It's interesting though, when I reviewed Blackbeard's Ghost, one of the reviewers like, this is horrible, this is like, it's a desecration of the memory of Blackbeard, Edward Teach, but no one ever says that these Disney David Crockett movies were a blasphemy against the reputation of David Crockett. I think probably because they paint him as this kind of cool guy. Well, cool for the 50s, anyway. All right, what did you think about this movie? Please leave a comment anywhere you can comment, and if I see it, I might respond. I might argue with you, or not. I might say thank you for your comment. You never know. It's a roulette of danger.